This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Good morning and welcome aboard the Sunrise Safari, all the way here live in South Africa. We have got a male lion who was up and about a moment ago roaring, but of course he's gone flat. And well, that is what they do. He's the dominant male in this area. It's not only myself out and about. We've got Lauren Arthur out and about with David Easter in Juma. We've got Trico and Gerrit out and andBeyond and Ngala. Josh and BK are doing their thing out in Tswalu Kalahari, and Kim and Owen out in andBeyond Pinder. We do welcome you all on board your live African safari. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Djuma Private Game Reserve in the Sabi Sands, where we have got dark male lion of the Evoker Coalition. We woke up this morning to lions roaring all over the place, and we were just following up, and we had some tracks on the northern boundary, tracks of a lioness, audio all over the place, as probably the Telemati Pride is trying to regroup themselves. Hello, everybody. My name is Steve, joined by Morgan on camera this time around, and we're delighted to have you with us. I hope you are ready for an action-packed morning. We had some leopard tracks as well out the gate, which we are quite keen to follow up on. But when lions are calling, such a great way to start the morning. Now, it is 19 degrees Celsius, 66 degrees Fahrenheit, and as always, we are very, very interested in your questions and comments, so send them through using the hashtag WildEarth on Twitter. throw them in on the YouTube chat stream, or if you're under the age of 18, you can get them sent through to kidsquestions@wildearth.tv. Alternatively, go over to the webpage, sign up if you have not done so already, and submit your questions on the live Safari page. Wishing you all a very blessed morning. Dark Mane has gone as flat as a pancake, so I'm going to go and spend some time on what I thought were muhle leopard tracks, which means very fresh leopard tracks, male. Fanuti from Juma had female tracks. So who is it? Who could it be? Very excited to find a leopard on Juma. It's been seemingly an age. Franklin has taken a little bit of a upset stance with this male lion in his territory. You might hear the voices. We are in the sighting with other vehicles, but I don't foresee him getting up to too much. So let's head on, Morgan. Let's leave our male lion to do his thing and go follow up on those tracks, because I think that will be okay. Well, while we head on out of here, we're going to send you over to Josh. I'd like to wish you good morning.
Well, good morning and welcome back to the Green Kalahari. It seems you've had a good start to the Safari Live Drive with a lion, and you find us sitting with a lovely herd of Springbok who are just getting their day started with a little bit of breakfast. And here you see why there's such an adapted species to semi-arid areas, because they're able to graze and browse. So definitely a stunning animal. And morning again, my name's Josh, and behind the camera we have BK, and we're going to be showing you what the Green Kalahari has to offer this morning. So the sun is coming up behind us here at the mountains, but we're slowly getting the day started, same as these guys. And it has all the promise of being a spectacular day here. So this herd's got 1 or 2 rams in it and quite a few ewes. So we've just had a question from Debbie, and it's, do Springbok and Impala have the same behavioral patterns? So Debbie, there's 1 or 2 similarities. There's also obviously quite a few differences. Impala rams during the rut will obviously hold the territory and try and keep as many females around them as they can and chase away any other males. Springbok do the same, as well as the fact that you'll generally only have 1 ram with a breeding herd. So these are sort of 2 of the basic similarities, but these guys will have massive migrations, anything up to a couple of thousand animals, although up to the hundreds of thousands have been recorded. Where your Impala are more sedentary, they'll stay in an area, maybe do a small movement for food and that, because their habitat in generally has a little bit more food year-round. With these guys being more semi-arid and into the deserts, they'll actually have to migrate a lot further for food and water. And especially come the rains, when there's certain areas that get earlier rains, these guys become aware of it. It's almost like they can smell it or sense it, and they'll head into those areas to get to the newest shoots after what would probably be quite a tough winter. As you can see, they're slowly feeding away from us. So I think we're going to bumble on and head towards one of our dams and see what else we can find. But you are most welcome to come along for the ride. So we're going to carry on. Sorry, we had a little bit of a comms there. And we're going to be sending you across to get an idea of what the weather is on the other side. Enjoy!
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to andBeyond Pinder. We had a very peaceful scene just before you arrived, but now you can hear the Impala's alarm calling and even the wildebeest alarm calling every now and again. So we were just sitting here enjoying this nice misty morning, and a group of Impala were kind of quite inside a thicket, which is a bit strange for a non-windy day like today, and suddenly they all kind of leapt from the thicket and started alarm calling. We can't quite see what they're alarm calling at because they're all looking in different directions, but we are just keeping an eye out for that because that is quite exciting. It could be a predator of some kind. I'm Kim, and behind camera we've got Odie, who's new back to Pinder since January, so welcome back, Odie. But yeah, we're just going to keep an eye on what's going on here because, like I said, it was very peaceful, and then suddenly it became this very noisy and frantic situation. The problem with Impala is that they can be a little bit kind of oversensitive to things. What might have happened is they might have all crowded into a bush, and an Impala might have come out the wrong side, and everyone thought he was a leopard and started alarm calling at it. They're all looking in the wrong direction. The wildebeest didn't see anything. They're still alarm calling though, but they are literally looking in every direction. So generally, if you're looking for a predator in the bush and you hear an animal alarm call, your first step is to try and find the animal that's alarm calling and then see which direction it's looking in, because it'll be looking at the animal that it is alarm called at. And then that's how you'll hopefully find the predator. But, like I said, that is not helping at the moment because these Impala are just looking everywhere. Half of them are looking into the bush that they just ran out of, and some of them are looking kind of like away from that bush. And the wildebeest all have calmed down quite a bit. They've started feeding again because I think they know that sometimes Impalas do make a mistake. There they are, and that bush there to the right is the thicket that they were in. I literally just think, I mean, it was quite strange, actually. I even thought when we came around the corner and they all crowded into that thicket, it was quite odd behavior, because on a still morning like today, there's no wind, there's no rain, so there's nothing to hide from, and Impala are plains game, so they much prefer, or they feel much more comfortable being out in the open, in open grasslands, so that they can see for far around them and see predators approaching, because they can outrun most predators if they see them within good time. So to crowd into that thicket was a bit strange. They'd only really do that if they were trying to shelter from wind or rain. So, Seth, they are not territorial in that they kind of, they'll move through quite large ranges. They are just territorial in terms of keeping their harem of females to themselves. So in terms of like a specific area, there may be quite a lot of different males inside of one territory, but it's just a case of the male, the dominant male of his group of females, keeping that group of females to himself. Oh, now the zebras have just alarm called. There's a lot of kind of tension in the air here, and zebras don't really lie. They just kind of hidden behind the bushes there. They're also looking kind of all over the place though, so that doesn't help us. Actually looking at us. Well, I hope that's not what they are alarm calling at. Okay, I think we are going to stick around here though, because I don't know if there's a smell in the air or something that's keeping these animals on edge. Like I said, the behavior of being on edge and quite anxious is normally when it's quite windy or rainy, and none of that is happening. So we're going to stick around and see if anything develops here. But for now, we're going to send you to Lauren to say good morning.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the other half of the Juma team. I am back once again admiring the reflections at Treehouse Dam. My name is Lauren, and I do have Davi on camera. The sun is very, very bright this morning, so I am just going to do that. I've checked the hyena dens, and sadly, no one is home. Yes, what a heavy heart this morning. But do not fret, I am very excited for what we have in store. I'm just going to bumble with no plan and try and get reacquainted with the reserve once again. Davi and I had the most incredible, I want to say 2 weeks, but it wasn't even 2 weeks in Namibia, which we will tell you all about. Saw some brand new species, some brand new organisms that I've never seen or even imagined before. Oh, Davi, you found your favorite bird, the green-backed heron. Well done. I actually haven't seen a green-backed heron at Treehouse Dam before. But it's really quiet, it's really still. There's obviously lions on the property, but I think I'm going to go in search of, well, anything I can find, including the other spots. Not the spotted hyenas, but the Panthera pardus spots, aka leopards. But it's wonderful to be back, and as predicted, oh, and off we go. The weather is changing. There's a nip in the air, and I knew it. Winter is really, I think it's actually almost here, the very start of it. So it's a little bit chilly in the morning, and as soon as the sun comes out, you definitely warm up, but it's chilly. So let's bumble on, since there's not much going on around Treehouse Dam, and see what we can find. It takes a while. I would say it takes a day or two to try and get back into it. I've only been gone for 2 weeks, but you've kind of got to try and figure out where the animals have been moving, what individuals have been using which roads, especially when it comes to leopards. What times have you been seeing the hyenas at? So you've just got to sort of figure it all out once again. So I'm going to bumble, look for some tracks, and see what I can find.
It's the month of March, and WildEarth is offering you the chance to win a brand new prize. Sign up to be a WildEarth Explorer, and you could win a 5-day eco-training ranger experience for 2. Eco-training is the pioneer and leader in safari guide and wildlife training in Africa. The lucky winners can look forward to approaching dangerous game on foot, tracking and 4x4 driving, learning about animal behavior, and even spending one night sleeping out under a blanket of stars. In addition, you will also get the exclusive opportunity to join the WildEarth team on the broadcasting vehicle. Sign up to be an explorer now, and it could be you that wins this life-changing experience. Terms and conditions apply.
For all of you WildEarth explorers who bought plaques, today is the day that you will make your very first safari on our vehicle. Because we are quite remote here in the bush, they have taken some time to arrive, but I am happy to say they are here and they look great. Marcel has spent the day attaching them. Let's take a look.
Before we mount these nameplates, we just give a light dusting of green paint. This is to better match them to the color of the vehicles, and also to decrease the reflectivity of the metal and thereby staying sensitive towards the animals.
Bumble crew, hopefully, Dan Black, Liesel Apgar, and Alicia George. Well, it's time for me to get ready to take you all on a safari. Let's go.
Hi, my name is Tristan Dix, and I am a guide here at Djuma Private Game Reserve for WildEarth. We love connecting you to the African bush, and we always look forward to all of your questions. If you want to ask a question on WildEarth, you'll need to register on the website. Once registered, go to our live safari page and submit a question below the live feed. Catch up with me on WildEarth.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to andBeyond in Ngala. As you can see right in front of us, we have an incredibly beautiful bird sitting there, just waiting patiently. And this morning I just thought I will take you guys to this waterhole so that we see what we find here. Good morning once more, everybody. My name is Trico, and behind the camera I have Gert with me. I'm glad everybody can join us in this beautiful, beautiful morning. So as I said, I thought we'd just sit here, and just have a little bit of a listen and, just listen to the sounds of nature. You can hear a bit in the distance there. You can hear some ring-necked dove or Cape Turtle dove. There's a crested francolin calling. And there were some Aramak barblers earlier on calling. And that beautiful bird is sitting on a log there with a bit of white there and a bit of yellow beak as a grey heron. And it tends to like to be in this area here. Understandably, because there's a lot of fish here and a lot of frogs, so he's just patiently waiting for them. I believe one viewer is saying this waterhole looks so beautiful indeed, and I'm glad you can join us, Daphne. This is absolutely amazing. And I also like that bit of reflection of that bird of the water there. How cool is that? And also that bird sitting there, the sun has just started to come up. And there's a lot of glare on the surface. You see that bird is sitting right close to the waterhole so that it can have a clear look of what's going on under that water. And if anything moves a little bit closer to the surface, maybe a common platanas or any type of fish, you'll see him just using his beak and just catching it. I think, let's take a bit of moment of silence and just listen. And also just have a look at that magnificent bird and see what it does next. So I think we're gonna stay here for a little while, and I'm gonna quickly send you to our other location.
What a wonderful start. A large breeding herd of elephants. I've heard there's lots of elephants around right now and they're very relaxed. So although seasons are changing and temperatures are changing, there's lots of very subtle changes happening. The vegetation is of course still very lush and water is plentiful, which means that the elephants are still extremely happy. And Davy and I actually spent some time with the rock hyraxes. I think they're also called dassies here. And if you've never seen one before, definitely Google it. They're bizarre little animals, little mammals. And I guess, truth to be told, they do look like a very large guinea pig, but they're a hyrax. And, well, the rock hyrax likes to spend time on rocks, to be completely honest. I think I have an elephant right here next to me. I see you. Look, you're not doing the best job at hiding. I see your trunk. And the reason I'm talking about hyraxes, in case some of you are very confused, they are said to be very closely related to elephants. I know. When you tell people that, they look at you as if you're absolutely crazy. But they are related. And they do actually share a lot of really unusual characteristics with elephants and also the sirenids, and that's your dugongs and manatees. They share a lot of features with them. Can you hear the low rumbos? They're communicating. I think this youngster thinks it's completely hidden. Hello, little one. Oh, sweet. It's very close to the car. This is a youngster. Can't quite see if it's male or female yet. Can you hear them just munching on all the grass? You're not shy. Looks like it could be a male. Wow, eating mixed types of vegetation here. Breaking branches, gleaning the leaves off of branches, pulling up the grass. Sorry, Gwen, I'm not getting that question. Did you get it, Dav? One more time. You see the suckling happening here? This youngster is suckling. It's very sweet. Winter. Of course, winter is the hardest time. I think this winter will not be so harsh. I think this winter will actually be very giving. Oh, there's another youngster wanting some. But because of the rains we've had this year, I think a lot of the dams will remain full. And I think a lot of the vegetation will also sort of remain quite thick. Now, the evergreen trees will always keep their leaves and the deciduous trees will naturally lose them, but I think the grass will subside. A lot of the vegetation will die, but I don't think it's going to be as barren as it has been. I remember 2018 when I first arrived. This landscape was so barren, monotonous, empty, dry. The elephants were stressed. Every single water body was empty apart from the pumped pans. Every single water body. Twin dams, Treehouse, Gowrie Dam, Buffelshoek Dam, empty. So this creates stress, it creates pressure, environmental stress, lack of resources, and therefore the animals will react to limited resources. But I think this winter is definitely not going to be as harsh. But yes, summer is a time of joy. Everything is plentiful. But winter is a very different story out here. It doesn't rain in winter. The seasons out here in the Lowveld are starkly different in terms of temperature and, of course, rain. We got more arriving. Hello. Davi and I actually spent some time in the Ogab River, where you find the desert elephants. And they're not actually classified as a separate species. They are Loxodonta africana, the African elephant, but they're highly specialized to life in the desert. So there's lots of scientific questions as to whether they maybe should be classified a different species. But genetically right now they're not. We didn't manage to see them, it wasn't the season, but it was really fascinating spending time there and understanding how they survive in a desert environment. Okay, we're going to try and stay with these elephants a little bit longer because they're so fabulous, and for now we're going to send you across to another live location.
From feeding elephants and discussing winter to water bodies, we find us sitting at one of our dams watching a female dabchick or little grebe feeding her two little ones. It's been quite entertaining watching them. So she dives underwater looking for small aquatic insects and tadpoles and that, and she can go down for up to 50 seconds. Now that is quite a while for such a small bird, but on average you're looking at about 15 to 20, and she'll travel anywhere between 5 and 20 meters underwater or pop up at the same spot. But the two youngsters have been fighting, and they keep trying to dunk each other under the water, which is quite entertaining. So these two are obviously arguing over food, but as you can see they can motor along on the water there. Quite speedy little guys. So they're about the age where they're still being fed bill to bill by their mother, but soon they'll be big enough where she'll drop food in front of them to try and get them to catch it. And obviously start teaching them how to forage for themselves. But I must say, same as Lauren, when I arrived at Tswalu, we were coming out of quite a bad drought, so a lot of our dams were dry. We've had incredible rains over the last 6 to 8 months. So as much as I think there will be water and our vegetation is very much benefited, I do think if this morning was anything to go by, it is going to be a very cold winter. A lovely reflection there on Chukuru Dam of the Coronaberg. So our little dabchicks are carrying on. Are they a different color when they are juveniles, Douglas? They are indeed. So they don't have their parents' coloration yet. They don't have that rufous neck yet. So they're pretty drab and fluffy at the moment. Once they hit adult or breeding age, they will definitely get a lovely rufous neck and a crest. So for now, unfortunately, they are rather drab little ducklings. Although not a true duckling, obviously. In the background, we have a pair of shell ducks chattering away. The dawn chorus this morning has been quite nice. PK and I stopped here for a quick cup of coffee and just to see what was going on. Landed up with quite a bit of nice bird life, to be fair. Always good to just spend some time with the smaller things. A and our pair of shelducks there. That lovely male in the front. So quite an unusual bird in the fact that they nest underground in abandoned aardvark burrows. I do know at the beginning of WildEarth's time with us here at Tswalu, Dylan managed to actually find a nest and put this on television. So quite a spectacular thing that. But one of two species here on Tswalu that nest underground. So these guys and your ant-eating chat will both use aardvark burrows. Your ant-eating chat burrowing into the roof and making its own chamber. So folks, we're going to send you across to Steve. Apparently he's got something a little larger than our feathered friends here. Enjoy.
Welcome back to Juma, everybody, where we have been thwarted in our tracking of leopards by a small herd of elephants. That's right, you know we like elephants. Tracks of a male and a female leopard came from two different roads, arrived on Western Quarantine, have both gone into the drainage towards our right-hand side. Heading into this general direction. But so far nothing's come out, so I have a feeling that they might be in the block. I don't know if it is a mating pair. Shadulu has been on Simbili as a mating pair for some time now. Might be her leaving and re-establishing her boundaries. The male leopard could be Molwati, although by the way he came in directly from Bufasuk, I think it might be Tingana. It's on a very typical Tingana route. And at one point the two tracks met and the male is now following the female. So while we sit here and watch elephants feed, it's a great opportunity to be sitting and listening for the characteristic signs of leopard feeding, growling, or leopard mating, which is a sound that, if you've never heard it before, it's unmistakable. So is the sound of an elephant passing wind. It's also unmistakable. Hey, Morgan? Let's move up. Andrew, of course they do. Tuskless elephants do exist. They are just but it's just some elephants don't have tusks. They're not the most common. Tusks are obviously more an advantage to elephants feeding than no tusks. And there's a couple of cows that we find in Juma without tusks. It's just a genetic trait. And there's big and long stories about the tuskless elephants of Addo Elephant National Park. And that's quite a nice, beautiful, or should I say an interesting story of selective hunting at its most, let's move again, at its highest. Basically, in the Addo Elephant National Park, before there was a national park, there were a lot of wild elephants. And it's a very agricultural area. And so the community was like, we need to get rid of the elephants because the elephants are... Oh, hang on. Let's move up to a termite mound elephant because he's much cuter. This is a much cuter shot. Oh, there's a little elephant on the termite mound. Now, he's never been that big before. Oh, look how big you are. And so essentially a hunter was commissioned to remove elephants from that area in the Eastern Cape. But he was only paid in ivory, so he didn't shoot a single elephant that didn't have tusks. So long story short, all the elephants that had tusks were removed, and the only ones that were left didn't have tusks because he didn't want to waste his time and his bullets. That's probably the mindset. And so what happened in the Addo Elephant National Park, when they finally realized they needed to conserve the area, they put up fences to keep the elephants in. And that perpetuated the tuskless elephant because there were none in the population that had tusks. So that was alleviated in the 70s or 80s, I think, or maybe even the 90s when they took a couple of big Kruger bull elephants with tusks and reintroduced them back into Addo. And now those tusks and the tusk gene is back in that population. So it's essentially a semi-bottleneck. If you know what a bottleneck is, there's a whole lot of things coming into that are in the bottle, and the bottleneck is quite small. So the bottleneck means that only certain genetics get through the one end, and that is essentially what could be described as very selective hunting, whereby the gene is completely removed through selectivity. And unfortunately, through Africa, we don't see the same large tusks that used to be commonplace on the African continent, because those individuals were removed for those tusks, unfortunately. So it's basically very selective hunting, which leads to a loss of a genetic in the population. So obviously tuskless elephants are still able to feed and survive, but they don't have the same necessary skills and tools that these animals do to gouge and to tear the bark. They still get by, though. They still get by. They learn different tricks of the trade. Jelly, it's actually the top of the mouth. So the tusks are teeth. They are incisors that are enlarged and elongated. So they are attached to the top jaw. Basically, the elephant's nose is an extension of its lip and its nose together. So the tusk is coming out of the mouth. And obviously it's slightly changed, the shape of the face and all of that, due to the evolution of the elephant. But what was once probably an elongated nose, which helped in the feeding, an elongated, longer lip, should I say, ended up becoming a much longer, elongated lip, and a nose, which then facilitated all of the things elephants can do with the trunk. But the teeth are actually the tusks are actually part of the face and part of the dentition. Modified incisors, I believe. There's Mama. I love this female. Her and her two youngsters are such good value. I've seen them on Juma for the last 3.5 years. This little one that you see there was the tiniest baby when I started here. And now look how it's grown. It's able to climb termite mounds. It's able to use its trunk quite efficiently to feed on those raisin trees on top there.
So in 1998, we had this idea to go and put a live web camera on a waterhole somewhere in the Sabi sands next to the Kruger National Park. And I approached just about every single landowner, and everybody thought I was completely crazy until I met Yuri and Pippa Moorman.
We thought it was definitely a fun idea and a worthwhile thing to experiment.
And it immediately became a runaway success. And it gave people all around the world the opportunity to watch a little piece of Africa, day and night. Back in 1998, it was the very early stages of the internet. And all we were able to do was to get a 30-second refreshing JPEG out of that camera. But over time, what we began to do is focus more and more on trying to develop this concept of giving people the opportunity to go on safari.
Even though we live just 500 meters up this hill, we still put the camera on to see what's happening.
Absolutely, we watch it ourselves.
For many years, WildEarth has taken viewers from around the world to the Mara Triangle, a place of majestic beauty and abundant wildlife. But it wasn't always like this. Before 2001, it was infested with poachers. Illegal harvesting and hunting was rife. Now the situation couldn't be more different. The hard work and dedication of the Mara Conservancy has revolutionized this magical land. But now, the loss of revenue from tourism has created a grave crisis. The Mara Conservancy needs help if they are to continue protecting the reserve and supporting the local communities whose livelihood depend on its survival.
I'm Nikki here at andBeyond in Ngala in South Africa. I love getting questions from viewers about all the small things within the environment and how it all is integrated with one another. If you want to ask me any questions, please simply register with the WildEarth website, head across to the live safari page and then post your questions there. I'm looking forward to chatting to you on my next WildEarth drive.
So we continue our adventure and we are exploring. Out to see what's going on in the dunes. We've had one or two small sightings on the go. But with the sun coming over the Coronaberg now and it's starting to warm up, I think one or two more species will join the party and start their days. It is definitely chilly this morning. Myself and BK are wrapped up a little bit. But we all know winter is coming. A little bit of a long distance visual here. But we have got some Gemsbok and some Springbok slowly running away. Incredibly beautiful antelope that. Just posing for a quick section here for us. And probably wondering, what are we doing at 7:15 in the morning? What are we up to? Off they go. Very startling antelope, incredibly beautiful. Oh, there's a Springbok with them as well. Hey. He's going, don't leave me behind, guys. So we're going to continue exploring and see what else we can find to share with you. We're sending you across to another watering hole. Enjoy.
Welcome back, everybody. So we have come to one of our large water. At the moment, it's very, very large because we've had so much rain here. All of the watering holes are looking absolutely beautiful. But we have found a group, or rather like a colony of, well, there you go, you can see how beautifully large this watering hole is. It just goes on forever. But yeah, in all those dead trees that you can see on the left-hand side of your screen, they are full with white-breasted cormorants who have all started nesting and will be laying their eggs from, well, will have actually probably already started laying their eggs. They start from about February, although before I left for leave, they actually weren't here, so I assume that they'll only be laying round about now. And then they will be hatching little chicks in about a month from when they first lay. It can be a very, very noisy situation. They're a little bit quiet at the moment. You can just hear a few gobbles every now and again. They just kind of speak to one another or communicate quite softly. I don't know if you can hear that. It's quite faint. But you can see they're rather on top of one another. Their nests. Yeah, so unfortunately I don't think you'll be able to hear, but it's kind of like these soft, like, purring and gobbling noises, almost like a turkey, but a bit less intrusive, I'll say. Like soft purrings and gobblings. And they all seem, it's quite a content sound, just sitting on their nests. Looks like the construction of most of their nests is complete, but they will actually carry on adding things and reinforcing their nests throughout incubation. It's quite a cool one there on the bottom right hand side of that one. He's got a nice little private you can see he's actually seems to have a twig, and he's also kind of reinforcing his own nest there. So at this stage, I mean, you can see that he's sitting on, he or she is sitting on the nest. It could be because they've already laid the eggs and now are incubating them. But also, right at the beginning of their nest building, they'll stay quite nearby their nest because they tend to steal from one another's nests. So they feel the need to actually guard their nest at the beginning of their nest building period. Sorry, we've just got an anti-poaching unit member driving past, if you can hear the motorbike. Lily Pan, it's a combined effort, so the male and female will help to build the nest, and they will also both contribute to the incubation. It's all quite a team effort throughout the whole process of building the nest, incubating the egg, and then even raising the young. So they'll go and fish, and then they come back to the nest and they regurgitate their food into the young's mouth. It's quite a thing to actually see, and I hope in the coming months we'll actually be able to show you guys that, because the young will stick its head right up into the throat of the adult, the parent, to get the leftover fish that's being regurgitated. Okay, but for now there's none of that regurgitating, but like I said, hopefully we'll be able to show you that in the future. For now, I think we're going to move on. We are checking watering holes just because of how beautifully new they look to us. We're going to send you over to Trico, who's got some elephants.
Welcome back, everybody. So yeah, we just came across this big herd of elephants, and there's actually an interesting behavior going on with this too. There we go, pushing one another there. So I think what's happening there is just basically play fighting. And that one decided, no, I'm no longer interested now. And they go at it again. It's quite interesting because if you look at them, they're different sizes. The one on the further left is a little bit bigger than the one on the right. Just being a bully there. But fights like these are not that serious. They're just, playing around. And also, asserting a bit of, dominance against each other. Look at them, both of them. Looks like they're both males. And it's good for them to start to learn to fight, push each other at this age. Because then as they get older, the bulls who live the herd at around 13 to 14 years old, they'll need those skills to be able to fight off other elephants. Especially fighting for females. Welcome, Wesley. I'm glad you can join us. I believe you're asking what's the possibility of them puncturing each other with their tusks. The possibility is there. But looking at their age and looking at their size, so mostly this type of fights, they don't really get to that point where, they'll actually puncture each other. Mostly they just push one another. They might have a little bit of, scratches, but they don't really get to puncture each other. With my experience being here in the bush for a little while, I've seen, young elephants do this, and, they normally don't puncture each other. But older bulls, those are the ones that usually the fights will end up with one being punctured, or even one getting killed. Actually, where we're sitting there's actually a few of them. I think I can see about 2, 4, 6 around that are doing the same thing, just pushing and shoving each other. And most of them are the youngsters that are doing that. There was an interesting behavior just earlier on. The other elephant was actually standing on its back feet, and the front feet it had on top of the other one. Jackson, the way they use their trunks is fascinating indeed. And you can see mostly when they fight, they actually put their trunks up and then ramming each other with the tusks. I think I'm gonna quickly pull ourselves back. There's some elephants approaching right close to us. So I'll try to give them a bit of space. Let's pull back a little bit more. When animals like that pushing each other while they're approaching the car, you have to be extra careful so that they don't ram onto you. believe one viewer is asking the speed of an elephant, an average speed. Okay, I'm gonna pull back a little bit more again. These guys are gonna get closer and closer to us. So an average speed of an elephant or an adult elephant, they'll run about 30 kilometers an hour. So that is quite fast. But then, you know, they can only sustain that for a short period. Because, I mean, as you can imagine, when you are 6 to 7 tons of weight, you can't sustain that for too long. That is interesting. You see how it quickly went down on its knees? And sort of almost like looks like it was putting its tusks onto the ground. So while sitting here, you can actually hear the impact of the tusks as they hit each other. I think let's take a little bit of a moment. Just enjoy this. All right, I think I'm gonna drive a little bit up here. There's more elephants coming through. There's more elephants up in the clearings there, as you can see crossing. So you know what, I think let's just stick around here. I was just thinking earlier on it might be a little bit far, but so it looks like it's all the family units all together feeding through the morning. But I think I'm gonna stay here quite a little bit because this is absolutely amazing. But while we sit here, I'll quickly send you to Kim.
Right, welcome back. And like we said, we're checking watering holes. We've come down to the next watering hole and found a beautiful little pod of hippos. And there's a tiny baby there. Oh my gosh. Really little baby in between those two. I think he's gone under now again. But he'll pop up soon. There he is. Oh, he's very little. They don't have the lung capacity as the adults, so he'll or she, it will have to come up a lot more frequently than the adults do. So we'll probably see him surface soon again. Oh, there he is. Sweet. It's a very little one. Look how pink around his ears. So with youngsters, they'll often stay nice and close to the edge where it's shallow enough for the youngster to stand and walk around without feeling too out of its depths. But you can see that these hippos are just having a very chilled morning after their night of grazing. Leandre, I'm going to have to find that out for you. I think that they give birth on land though, but I'm not entirely sure. I would assume that they give birth on land but very, very close to the water. When they have youngsters, they will... So at night time, hippos go off out of the water to graze, and they'll go quite far away from watering holes to graze. But when they have youngsters, they'll actually stick very close to the watering hole so that they can run in when, if there's a threat nearby. They feel most safe when they are close to the water. But I'll have to just double check that. I don't want to give you false information. But let me double check, and I'll get back to you with that. Something else that's quite interesting, and this watering hole has not been full for very long at all. It was very recently just a grassland. And Odie and I have noticed that just behind us there's... Oh, fly on my finger. There's a hammercorp flying over the water, and there's a lot of like fish activity, which is incredible because... So we had this, the rains here maybe 2 weeks ago. So this watering hole has been full for all of 2 weeks. And there are already fish in it. And that hammercorp is taking full advantage of that. We weren't quite sure what that movement in the water was, but when we looked a bit closer, you can actually see like the shining fins popping up every now and again. It's actually just bubbling with activity. It's incredible. It's just amazing how quickly these watering holes develop. So Precious, this watering hole is a result of an overflow from another watering hole. It's a result of rain, but it's also the watering hole just above this one overflowed, and some of the fish will have come down from that watering hole. Also, catfish or barbel can actually stay dormant in mud for quite some time. So that also may be the case. Some may have just stayed dormant in the mud here. And also on top of that, catfish will actually travel overland to find new places to live. So they'll follow waterways upstream. So say, for example, like I was mentioning about this overflowing watering hole, they may come up from like a river to a watering hole or a lake that's somewhere away from the river, because obviously they want to spread out a little bit. If they just keep breeding in one area, then there's going to be too many of them eventually. So like most animals, they want to spread out from one another. They don't want to all stay piled on top of one another, so they'll move like that. So the thing is, it'll mainly be, so that's the catfish, they'll actually move themselves. But with these ones, which I think are tilapia, the reason I say that is just because I know that there are tilapia in the watering hole above this one, and those are the two main fish species that we get here, the tilapia and the catfish. So what might have happened is that the eggs from that watering hole above this one may have been washed down into this new watering hole, and they'll have hatched down here. Or even just some of the baby already hatched fish may also just get washed down. but quite incredible how quickly it all happens. I mean, like I mentioned, I was on leave, and this was a grassland before I left, and now it is a lake. So a pod of hippos would usually have up to about 15 or so individuals, and so if you see any more than that, which you can see more, it is generally more than one pod together. And you can see that. I mean, sometimes, especially in winter when the watering holes get a bit smaller and some actually dry up altogether, then pods of hippos have to congregate in one watering hole, and then you may see a lot more than just 15 individuals. It'll be 30 or even more. And in that time, there's quite a lot of tension because the dominant bull of each pod will be quite determined to make sure that his females stay in their pod and the other males don't get any ideas. There'll also be some kind of solitary males who don't have a pod, and they'll also be needing somewhere to live, and they can come into the area, and they cause quite a lot of tension and aggravation because they obviously have a little bit more motivation to try and take over a pod for themselves, whereas a male that already has a pod probably won't be that interested in taking over the pod of another male. I mean, here in this watering hole, there's this main little group that we've been looking at, and out of them I can see probably about 7 or 8 of them, but there are a few more off to the right amongst the water there. I mean, amongst the grass, but I can only just see like 2 or 3, and a youngster. So yeah, I mean, I don't know, maybe that's part of the same pod, could be part of a different pod, and they're just off to the side. There's also a few more to the left. They're kind of all spread out all over the place. So it could be a number of pods, or it could just be one even here.
On the 27th of April, WildEarth will be turning 14 years old, and we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for all of you. And to celebrate, we will be finishing the beautiful book that we started last year that looks at the history so far. But we do need you to be part of it. Please submit your most memorable sighting, or what WildEarth means to you, or even just your name and a comment to be included inside the book. Head over to the website to add your name and reserve your copy. And a big thank you to all of you who have contributed to the book so far.
Staying one step ahead is the key to survival out in the African wild. And now you can stay in front of the pack with a WildEarth weekly newsletter. Sign up to be a WildEarth explorer and you will get exclusive behind-the-scenes stories about your favorite guides and camera operators. Information about our upcoming plans and projects will be delivered to your inbox every week before anyone else. And you can hone your guiding skills by taking part in our Identify Me nature quizzes. WildEarth explorers, it's in your nature.
My name is Ross and I'm a field guide at andBeyond Pinder Private Game Reserve. I love getting questions from guests on WildEarth because I love sharing and learning information about nature with new people, and it also makes me feel like you're all joining me in real life. If you want to ask a question on WildEarth, then you need to register on our website. Once registered, go to our live safari page and submit your question below our live feed.
Our bodies are made up of about 60% water, which means that in a very short space of time, you can dehydrate completely. A relatively efficient way of collecting water early in the morning is to take an absorbent material like a sock and to walk through the grass, absorbing the condensed dewdrops on the grass. Once the material is saturated, you can then squeeze it out into a container, or you can suck it out directly into your mouth.
Well, welcome back again. So we're still sitting with this elephant here in the open clearings. And some of them have just started moving away. And that bull that you see down there in the distance there, he just came in. And then all of a sudden, you know, some of these elephants, especially the bigger females, started to disappear. It looks like he's following them, trailing them. And he goes right into the thickets there. The reason why I think maybe this female started to disappearing is because if he's in mass, he's a bit of a trouble because he just tries to force himself to these females. So I think I'm going to reverse back because there's other elephants coming on our left-hand side, so I don't want us to be right in the middle of them. So let me quickly go back, see if maybe we can have another view of that big bull. It seems like the grass here, it's very, very nutritious. It seems like all these family units have all congregated in this area. But then also as the sun's starting to heat up, I think they're gonna start to maybe slowly head to some waterhole to go have a drink or mud wallow. They actually use the mud as a sunscreen, as they put them on the back of them to stop the sun from burning them. As you can imagine, unlike us, you know, we have sweat glands and elephants don't. So they have to constantly either use a shade, or water, or mud to help keep cooler. Okay. Crazy. And let's do a look around just here. Welcome, Sarah. Glad you can join us. I believe your question is, can they break their tasks when they're play fighting? I think I'm going to pull over just right here because that bull is heading further and further into the thickets, and there's a lot of elephants in there, and you don't want to find yourself right in the middle of them, especially when they have youngsters. Can they break their tasks when they are play fighting? Yes, Sarah, it can happen that the task can break off. Okay, the bull is coming out again. I mean, look at the size of him. Just the size of his tusks are absolutely huge. you can see just behind his eye, looks like there's a bit of fluid coming out, sort of like a bit of dripping. So just behind the eye there's a gland called the temporal gland. So usually when they're in must, that gland will secrete. And also some environmental stress can trigger that gland to secrete that fluid. It looks like he just found a bit of shade there and he decided, you know what, I'm just gonna stop here for now and enjoy this shade.
So from the heaviest mammal on the African continent to its tallest, looks like we've got 2 record holders here. Sounds like you were learning a lot from Trico there about a bull elephant and must and temporal gland. And we're sitting watching an old bull giraffe just having a bit of nosh there. He's having a nibble. These guys are quite fascinating. They're obviously one of our more iconic species and quite odd because they are so different. So this gentleman is quite old. He's got quite a few scars, a slightly darker hide, and 1 or 2 little knobbles on his head there. But he thankfully doesn't mind spending time with us and giving us quite a nice look there. These guys out here specifically, and in most reserves, will feed early in the morning and in the late afternoon into the early evening and just avoid the heat of the day. But he needs to eat quite a lot. If you look at a bull elephant that you were just with, he can eat up to just over 300 kilos in a day if necessary. And this chap over here can still do a big amount, but not quite there. He'll eat up to about 60, 65 kilos in a day, potentially. And if you think about how many little leaves he has to eat to make up that weight, that's quite a lot of salad here. That's a lot of food. So he's going to have to spend quite a bit of time foraging. A very beautiful pattern, very distinct pattern there. And that tail working like a fly whisk, trying to get rid of those irritating biting insects and louse flies. And check that tongue out. Very, very versatile organ, a giraffe's tongue. And very long, up to about 40 to 45 centimeters. So that is a serious tongue. And there's a stunning pose for us in the light. He's obviously got a little bit of an elevation advantage over us. Do wonder what he was staring at there for a second. Often out here in the bush, if you see a group of giraffe just staring in one direction, it's always well worth going and investigating. Often telltale sign that maybe there's a predator in the area or moving through and that they've seen it. Obviously, when you're on a bushwalk, you'll see they'll sit and stare at you. So they are very curious, but a nice indicator species, if you like, as to what might be in the area. So particularly like with lion and hyena and that, or wild dogs, they're all sitting staring in one direction. They could be telling you something. Well, he's curious about something, that's for sure. Just having a look there at that dark pattern. Very beautiful. Oh, you can't see me, I can't see you. He's decided to hide behind the tree. Going for the tender, soft leaves up at the top. And fresh growth. And there's that very particular walking motion of theirs. So we're going to leave this old man and carry on and see what else we can find. But I believe Lauren has something interesting to share with you. Enjoy.
It's not all about the big things. We've had the elephants, one of the biggest. Now, we have what I believe to be a tropical tent web spider. Now, the spiders themselves are not so easy to identify. It's actually the web. The web is immediately obvious. It's that sort of tent shape. And believe it or not, they're actually part of the orb weavers, or the orb web spiders, just like your golden orb, your garden orb, all these different species. The tropical tent web belongs in the same group as the orbs, and that's due to the sort of orb section that they create in their web, which the individual, the spider, will spend all day and all night on. They rest, they chill, they eat, they hunt. Everything was moving, happens in the web. And believe it or not, it's got what they call knockdown threads, and these are the parts that form the tent structure. They are also the parts that not only give it structural integrity, but also deflect the prey onto the web. So they're really visible threads. I can't see them right now, but they are the reasons that the prey normally try to move out of the way of these threads and end up stuck in the web. So it's a very smart design, if you like. And similar to all arachnids, or at least spiders, should I say, once adult, the male will actually leave. He will sort of stop eating and using the webs for food, and it's time to go seek out receptive females. That's his main goal. Once he's fed, then once he finds a female, he mates and dies shortly afterwards. Yes, whereas normally when you see a large spider on these webs, it's normally the female. So you'll normally always find them on the webs, unless disturbed, unless there's a huge imminent threat. The spider then can drop to the ground, protected with its own body armor, and then of course immediately hide. And maybe once the threat has passed, they can return to that web, or if the web is damaged, you're going to have to start again. I didn't catch that name, but no, it's not really in layers. It's very tricky to see from the angle that we've parked and the light sort of reflecting onto it. But it is shaped in a tent shape, if you like, almost like a triangle. And the spider's at the base of it, and that's in the center point. So there's no visible sort of stabilimentum like you can see in the other ones, but it's in the shape of a triangle, but it's a very messy web, and that's why it looks like there's lots and lots of layers. I'm just going to try and see if I can pull up my book, and maybe there's a better image, because it's quite tricky to see right now due to the light. But it's a very unique shaped web, and it does look like there's lots and lots of layers, absolutely. The picture in my book also doesn't show it. But just imagine a triangle, and it's that sort of base part of the triangle that's the most important part, and then you've got all those knockdown threads that hold the tent in its shape. It's just like a tent that you sleep in when you're camping. And they're often quite small, although they're part of the orb weaver, orb web family. They don't create these huge, massive golden structures as the golden orb webs do. But it's really nestled into the vegetation, and that's why they're so successful. So although we can see the web, it's sometimes, well, mostly always camouflage to the prey species. Gwen, one more time my comms checked out there. I'm losing comms. Is that, do you get 2 females in one web? Yes. Darby's saying yes. From Bernie. Sorry, I think we're in a bit of a tricky spot. Generally speaking, no. Especially with the orb webs, the orb weavers, you won't. The females are much larger in most species, not all, and they built the web. So it's sort of their home, it's their structure, it's the way that they get food. And of course, because the food does get trapped in the silk, which is made from amino acids, they of course get very possessive and territorial over the food. They would not share a web unless you're talking about spiders such as the community nest spiders. Then they live in a community, so that's very different. But normally speaking, females of the same species will not be found on a web. Sometimes you'll find little scavenging species like your dewdrop spiders and other species that will use the web, but generally speaking, Bernie, no, you don't. You don't want to mess with a female spider. Mm-mm. Okay, we're going to keep bumbling in here and see what we can find, and for now we're going to send you across to Steve.
Well, thanks, Lauren, and welcome back, everybody. Well, we left our elephants quite some time ago and following tracks of a male leopard that have taken us on a bit of a roundabout route. They've gone into this block, but they haven't come out. So we're just going to do one more check of the southern boundary to see if the animal hasn't gone out the south, because if it was Mawati, there's a good chance that that's what he's done. But coming up the road, just up ahead over here, was a track of one wild dog, and then a track of the leopard before that turned off into the block. Normally there's more than one wild dog when you find a wild dog, normally. They might have chased him, caused him to change direction, which means he could have come through the block and then crossed at any one of these quite horrible areas that you wouldn't see tracks at, and then continued on his southerly march. So let's go check southern boundary, and then we can be certain that he's left. Otherwise we'll know where the last track went in, and we can keep checking that a bit later. So he was following a female, and the female track and his disappeared at one point. I continued following him. He actually was following tracks of the lionesses from last night for a point, and he decided, I'm not going to follow them anymore. Cat, of course, tracks every now and again are very difficult to identify. End of the day, a track is what it is, but unless you physically see the animal stand there, it's still a debatable question. I've had many tracking observations or tracking courses in the past whereby sometimes the senior guys involved in the course disagree on a track. So unless you physically see it, there's always a debate. So I had some honey badger tracks a while ago that I struggled to identify, just the way it was moving in the substrate. But then eventually boiling it down, it couldn't have been anything else. But you get quite familiar with tracks in a certain area. If I went somewhere new like Tswalu, I'd probably struggle. Antelope tracks aren't always easy to differentiate the difference between. There are some very similar hoof prints. I think antelope tracking is one of the difficult arts. I am by no means an expert track, everybody. I get by and I thoroughly enjoy it, but it is a lifelong process and it's something I thoroughly enjoy doing. Well, a giraffe track is not very difficult to misinterpret than most of the others.
I think Steve's got a point. Giraffe track's pretty unique. It's pretty big out here, and definitely a track that stands out. Tracking out in the desert can be difficult, but we are blessed with a fantastic team of trackers who are masters of their craft. So we decided to stick around and try and figure out what this old bull was looking at. And as you can see, he's slowly walking away from us. But PK will swing a little bit. You'll see we found he actually had some friends in the area. We're going to try and reposition and see if we can't get you guys a better look. But for now, just show you where those friends of his are hiding. And I think that's what they were watching. Or he was watching. So there's more than one here. We think there's a group of about 5. One very curious individual. We're going to just adjust a little bit, folks. Hold on a sec. See if we can't get a better angle on these guys. So we've just had a question from Lilypan. How far would a giraffe walk on average in a day? So a specific number would be difficult. I'd say it would depend on food. And whether or not, let's say it was a bull who could smell a female in estrus maybe, and you land up with 1 or 2 different almost variations as to why they need to move. But they can move huge distances, especially for food or water. So depending on the area they're in, and if they have everything they need, they might be moving either 2-3 kilometers in a day, 4 or 5. Other times they could do 20, 25, 30 because they need to. So animals are always conservative with their energy. They're not going to burn through huge amounts if they don't have to. But if they've got a reason, then obviously they're going to get it done. They can have massive home ranges, so they'll kind of move where the food is. But a specific distance, Lilypan, I cannot give you, unfortunately. We've got a few different individuals here in this journey or tower, depending on your preference. So Sam's just had a question. Do giraffe ever eat marula fruit? So Sam, we don't have any marulas here on Tswalu, so I guarantee you that these giraffes have never eaten a marula fruit. But they are primarily browsers, so leaves and that, although they have been recorded eating freshly grown grass, so the newest shoots, but they will occasionally strip pods of certain species of trees. So it just depends. But no, I've never seen them eat a marula fruit. I personally really enjoy the fruit. I know Ellies love them, but I've never seen giraffe eat them. I wouldn't say it's impossible, but I find it highly unlikely considering their preferred meal. This gentleman's wondering what are his friends up to, watching the rest of the group. So this is a nice big bull, and there's one or two cows in this other group, so the gentleman always pays attention to what the ladies are up to. They really are the most curious animals. And back to it he goes. We're just going to move a little bit again, try and get you another or a better position on the rest here. See what we've got. The more we move, the more we find. So we've got 2 far back, 3 here close to us, and 2 or 3 others as well. So it's turning out to be quite a nice big journey of giraffes. So we've just had a question as to whether or not the giraffes, that bull's darker pattern is due to the Kalahari sun. No, it's not in this particular case. Although I'm sure with people it would obviously darken you a bit, but in this case you'll find it's got a little bit to do with age as well as genetics. So there's quite a discussion as to why do giraffes have a massive difference in their color schemes. And if you look at these females, they're actually a lot lighter than he is. So I don't think it's because our giraffe got a suntan. I do think it's more based on a little bit on age. They do get a little darker or a little bit duller with age, as well as obviously a genetic variation. Some individuals are prone to be a little darker or a little lighter. This lady wants to know, what are we up to? Looks like she's quite happy to be on TV. Those 2 horn-like structures on the top of her head are called ossicones. As you can see, hers are very thin and narrow. And there's quite a bit of fur on the top. And that is a big giveaway that this is a young lady, a female giraffe. So although we can't see all of them at the same time, it does look like we've got about 8 or 9 individuals here in the area, just feeding along, enjoying the early morning warmth. It was quite a chilly night. So there's an interesting one. We've just been asked by LP, would the giraffes eat the Springbok cucumber? Now, I'm not sure. It is a source of moisture. It's a soft fruit. It's got a bit of a thick skin, but it is a soft meal. I've never seen them feed on it, and I haven't heard any of the longer serving guides on Tswalu mention that. But I do know you'll see things like hyena feeding on like altsama melons and that for moisture. I've seen porcupine and hyena actually feed on the Springbok cucumbers as well. So I'm not sure. I wouldn't think so because they're obviously a browser. but I definitely can't give an answer where I'd say 100% one way or the other. I just find it unlikely, not to mention for them, if you've ever seen giraffe drink, it's quite a spectacle, it's quite a lot of work, and it's a very short period they can keep their heads that low below their heart. And it's a position they're very vulnerable in to other predators. So for them to feed on something that low to the ground would be very difficult. So I'm definitely going to go with, I would doubt they would do it, but I'm not sure. That's definitely something I'm going to have to ask either our farm exec or one or two of our longer serving guides if they've ever witnessed them feeding on our Springbok cucumbers. But a very cool question. Love to know. Now I'm wondering as to this, and I think this is the beauty of WildEarth, is the fact that your questions open doors we might not open ourselves, and you land up going, I've never thought about that. So we have a huge amount of our game count going on at the moment, and one of the things we noticed in the chopper yesterday is that our Springbok cucumbers are everywhere. And when I say it has been a bountiful harvest, honestly, I think I could fill Pantechnicon trucks after Pantechnicon trucks, and there would still be thousands of them lying around. And you do see a lot of different species feed on them. But now I want to see if a giraffe can feed on one. I'm most curious. As you can see, this lady is staring at us going, okay, what's going on now? Obviously enjoying her time in the limelight, being a star. I always hesitate to put human emotions and that into animals and our interactions with them. But I'm convinced giraffes are the most curious animals alive. The way these two are just sitting staring at BK and myself, you've got to wonder, they're going, what is going on? Maybe they're looking at the fact that we're all wrapped up and having a chuckle going, softies.
It's the month of March and WildEarth is offering you the chance to win a brand new prize. Sign up to be a WildEarth Explorer and you could win a 5-day eco-training ranger experience for 2. Eco-training is the pioneer and leader in safari guide and wildlife training in Africa. The lucky winners can look forward to approaching dangerous game on foot, tracking and 4x4 driving, learning about animal behavior, and even spending one night sleeping out under a blanket of stars. In addition, you will also get the exclusive opportunity to join the WildEarth team on the broadcasting vehicle. Sign up to be an explorer now, and it could be you that wins this life-changing experience. Terms and conditions apply. With a slew of potential dangers lurking, it's essential to be aware of your surroundings whilst walking in the wilderness.
20 yards away from one of the most endangered species. This is a big bull.
What a moment, what a close encounter with an Ellie bull. He's just over here now. He's moved completely away.
Being on a bushwalk and seeing a leopard, I mean, it's ridiculous to be this close to a leopard on foot and for him not to run is absolutely insane. How crazy was that?
Through the gap there is just the back of the head of a male lion. He is absolutely unaware that we are here right now. I'll tell you, seeing lions on foot, it definitely brings out the caveman in you, this little scared human being.
I love being a cam op for WildEarth. The animals coming right up close to you, especially like lions. Sometimes you get nervous, but you have to go with the flow. My favorite animal to film is the elephant because of how big it is. But when it's really up close to you, it's one animal that you would say, I really respect you.
Welcome back to andBeyond Pinder and yet another beautiful watering hole. Watering holes are always really exciting places to come and visit, just because there's often a lot of activity around them. At the moment it's a bit less than normal just because the water's spread out. There's puddles all over all the roads, so animals are able to drink from the puddles and not have to come to watering holes and risk being eaten by crocodiles or preyed upon by other or predators that might also have come down to drink. But this watering hole also, before I went on leave, was also a some white-faced whistling ducks flying off over there. But yeah, this was also all grass when I left on leave, so pretty cool to see it being occupied by ducks and hippos. Lots of the white-faced whistling ducks also have chicks at the moment. And yesterday we actually did see a family, quite a big family of ducklings. So maybe that's where these guys are coming back to. Let's see where they land. No, I think they're just having a fly around, stretching their wings. You can see also how lots of the grass in the water is now turning brown, and that'll eventually die off. And then the watering hole will appear much bigger than it even is now. We're next to some Egyptian geese. There they are, beautiful. See the white-faced? White faces. That gives it its name of the white-faced whistling duck. And that, Egyptian goose might, yep, coming to chase it away. Freddie, they will just do, I suppose, as you would do when you're walking amongst a crowd of people. You just use your eyes and make sure that you don't bump into anyone. Their flying is as natural to them as our walking is, so they literally just, as I say, just keep an eye out for one another and make sure that they don't fly into each other. It's a nice little relaxed pod of hippos there. You can see that they are not as active as that last pod that we were with. I think they are literally just resting, probably have their heads up on each other's backs to keep their nostrils out of the water so that they can breathe without having to dip up and down. But that brown grass you can see in the background actually gives off quite a nasty smell as it rots away. But here, luckily, there's a beautiful, I actually can't see it right now, but it's actually, if you look behind the white-faced whistling ducks, that kind of shrub there, that is called curry bush. And it is giving off a really lovely smell that's kind of masking the nasty smell of the rotting grass. Just want to try and see if we can see that family of white-faced whistling ducks with their ducklings, because it was quite a huge family. I think they must be hiding in the grass. Okay, I think we've had our full of watering holes. We might start to look for something different now. But for now, and while we do that, we'll send you over to Trico, who apparently has found some predators.
All right, welcome back, everybody. As per plan this morning, I said we are going to be looking for lions. As we're driving on this road, came around this corner, and then boom, there they are, just laying down there. Looking so peaceful. So this is that female of the Birmingham Pride of the 3 smallest calves. Those are about 2 to 3 months old. And she has another female on the side there. So if you were with us last night, if you did join us last night, you would have seen that this particular female didn't allow some of the members of the Birmingham Pride to get closer to her cubs. Which is quite interesting, because now you see there's another female right close to her, but she's comfortable with her being around the cubs. So it almost looks like there's just specific individuals that she doesn't really want them to be close to these young ones. It's a very nice breezy morning, and they've chosen a nice shade there, even though one of the cubs or 2 of the cubs are a little bit out in the sun there, but I'm sure as it heats up more, they're going to move into the shade where mom is. And for now, because there's a bit of nice breeze, I don't think that's affecting them that much. Zach, I'm glad you can join us. There's a guy asking, do false estrus exist in lions? Zach, that's a very good question. I've actually seen lions actually, especially when they try to sort of save their youngsters. Okay, especially when you have males that have started to get in and they want to take over the territory. So they can actually fake estrus just so that their cubs don't get killed. There's one there twitching its ear right at the back there, the other female. But to be honest with you, with these lions right here, you're not gonna get any movement or anything at all. I would have imagined last night, after we've left them, they would have moved around quite a bit. But a female with the cubs, I don't think she would have moved way too much, because obviously she has those youngsters. But I think they were just moving around in within this area here. But at this time, I don't think they're gonna move much. I think they're quite content where they are. Unless if maybe some kind of a prey comes around, maybe they'll be up and try to hunt it. I think we're gonna leave these animals be and head more west and look for some other animals in that area, because these guys are not gonna move at all. But while we do that, I'm gonna send you to Steve.
Thanks, Trika. Well, welcome to Treehouse Dam, everybody. We've been searching for leopards, but we weren't able to find. It seems as if a male and female leopard are inside the block, so we're going to have to wait until a bit later, see if they come out again. But it is that time. Both Morgan and I just had a cup of coffee, and we're now going to sit quietly at this watering hole and just take it all in.
So we went from the giant to the not so giant. Lucky enough to find one of the wild meerkat family. So this isn't a habituated colony. It's not our mokalas or our horses or the rock stars, but there are a huge amount of different meerkat families here on Tswalu. And this one is taking it a little bit easy this morning and staying close to home. They are still a little shy, but there's one or two other individuals hiding that kind of pop their heads out every now and then as they start to become a little more comfortable with the vehicle and realize we're not a threat. Start seeing more and more of them popping out. But it's still a little chilly. These guys are having a nice sunbathe. Just having a look at what's going on around. I always love it when they stand like that. Though it is very entertaining when they sunbathe in that particular position. They kind of get a bit drowsy in the sun and then they fall over. It's very entertaining. A bit of cleaning going on this morning. So for those who haven't seen this before, meerkats are diurnal, so they're out during the day. They come out after sunrise and they go down into their burrow systems before sunset. But they don't come out at night to urinate or defecate and that, because obviously their senses aren't designed to protect them as well at night. There's a lot of things out there who would enjoy a meerkat snack in the evening. So what they do is close to the tunnel edges is where, or the entrances, it's where they'll have those areas for urinating and defecating. And in the mornings, they just clean that entire system out. It also helps keep the accesses nice and open in case they need to move at high speeds away from a predator into the burrow system. Just make sure there's no obstacles, because often the wind blows quite hard here in the Kalahari and it closes the tunnels up quite a bit as well. So a little bit of housekeeping going on this Thursday morning. But you'll notice there's always one looking around, one lookout, and they have different alarm calls which tell them, is the predator on the ground, is it coming from the sky, and this changes where they bolt to and how they behave. It's a very interesting species. They also have some company of a different species. For those who don't know, this is a ground squirrel. Now, generally it's not unusual for them to co-inhabit burrow systems and live quite close together, although a few weeks ago we saw an incredibly different behavior, something that none of us had ever witnessed or heard of, and that was our mokala family of meerkats feeding on a pot of a ground squirrel. Now, as to whether or not they hunted it or had found it or what was going on, they were most definitely feeding on it. So, and that was with Kyle, one of our other guides. I was lucky enough to be on the vehicle that afternoon, and it was something incredible, and just kind of brings home the message that as much as we think we know about nature, we do not know it all. So for about 3 days afterwards, every time we saw a ground squirrel near a meerkat, we're like, you are one very, very brave squirrel. So there's a gentle breeze coming from the north to the south. And you can see every time they get our scent with that wind, then almost a little bit more edgy, have a look again, and then carry on with their thing. So we've had a very interesting question, and it's from Keisha. The question was, how do they choose who the caretaker is for the pups for that particular day? Keisha, I'd say it probably rotates through the adults, although it's not a logical system saying you do Monday and I'll do Tuesday. But you'll find that as they need to forage, they'll alternate between the individuals. So all your adults except for your most senior female, who will be the mother of the pups, and she obviously needs to forage the most because she needs to create milk for the youngsters. So you'll probably find that they just move it between the individuals and almost take turns, if you like. But they're obviously still, even though they're the caretaker of the day, they can still forage on the edges of the burrow system, and if a little skink or a scorpion or something was to come too close, it would be a most worthwhile snack. You can see these guys are still a little edgy. So once again, that breeze blowing does just affect their hearing and their sense of smell just a little bit, so they will be that much more alert. And looking at BK on the camera and going, so are we famous yet? So we've had a question from Smiling Man, and the question is there an issue, or is it an issue for meerkats with inbreeding? So, no, because they'll break away from their family group, maybe try and join another one, be it young females or lone solitary males moving in between because they want the chance to mate. Maybe for a female, they want to be the head of that family and try and climb that social structure and have pups of their own. So they do move between the families. It's not unusual. And occasionally what will happen is when they have a territorial fight, families might get split and they might not necessarily be able to find each other again. And what you'll find is they might start almost a new family by chance there, and other individuals might join. So inbreeding is not a big issue in nature. In general, unless it's in captivity or in an area where it's not big enough for there to be a natural movement of individuals. But no, I wouldn't say inbreeding is an issue for these guys at all. It's not impossible, but we're a massive property with a lot of different families, and I think you'll find they will disperse and try and join other families. Just enjoying that sun, but still so alert. These guys have very good hearing and incredible vision. I'm slowly seeing quite a bit more movement as they realize that the vehicle is not an issue and that the scary man with the camera is not going to do anything. Oh, we've got one starting to move away. I think you'll find these guys will slowly start foraging soon. Getting a bit warmer, and it's time for breakfast. See, there's one doing a bit of digging there. A lot of the ground cover you're looking at isn't grass. It's a vine, there's shrubs, there's acrotones, which is the little plant with the balls on it, or what looks like little balls, but it does allow for a massive amount of insect life. So there's no shortage of food for these guys, and our populations have exploded without a doubt. And the youngsters, where in harder years you might lose one or two just because there's actually just not enough food to go around, are all making it because there is an abundance. So there'll be lots of your burrowing scorpions. You've seen our ground catadid or corn cricket, armored ground cricket. They're everywhere. Although not the most palatable, they do get eaten. And then all your other small things that they'll feed on, small lizards and geckos and that, are often part of the menu. And then your grubs are a nice popular meal as well. So they're a small carnivore with a lot on the menu at the moment. So I think we're going to bumble on, folks, and see what else we can find. BK coming in there to the moon. Quite beautiful, and is waning at the moment, so going from full towards the dark. We're going to be sending you across to Kim, who has found something with stripes, she says. Enjoy.
Welcome back. We've come across some zebras. These two closest to us are two zebra stallions. Oh, there's the one's doing a nice wee now. And actually we stopped for them because they were doing something quite interesting. And see, he's quite interested in... now he's just giving a scratch, but he's quite interested in the defecation of that other one. The reason I say that is because the reason we stopped was because when we stopped here, the first one, the one that's walking away now, and he's just done it again with his urinating. So see how this second zebra has just gone and urinated right on the same patch that first one did. And that is exactly why we stopped, because the one was dropping some dung here on a pile of quite old dung. Yeah, there you go. The butterfly is starting to show some interest. And then he did his thing there, and then the second one came and had a good sniff, and he dropped it on top of the other ones, just like how you saw him with the urinating, how I'm doing it with the urinating. Sorry, I'm mixing up my words. And that is just a bit of a show of dominance. It's like he wants his smell to be the predominant smell there. So by defecating on top of that other one's dung and urinating on top of its urine, he's kind of covering it up with his own scent. Let's see who they've joined. Is that another male or a female? Can't see for now. Just waiting, just try and get a look underneath the tail. But got quite a thick neck. Yeah, it's another male. So it's obviously a little bachelor's herd. And that's also probably why there's this pile of dung that they're all using as a little scent marking station, a little midden. And it's not, it's quite common for a male zebra to use a dung midden, but female zebras, the mares don't tend to use them, unlike with say, white rhinos, where all members of the species will use a midden. It's quite pretty, those zebras walking off over the horizon into the blue. Their tails are out of sync now, but they were at one point just going all completely in sync, swishing away the flies. Luke, that is a very good question. And with zebras, no, not really. Their tails are predominantly for swishing flies away, but it's an intelligent question because lots of animals do use their tails to express their moods. So, for example, rhinos, which I mentioned earlier, they'll curl their tail up, and that means that they're a little bit agitated. Lions also will kind of flick their tails when they're in a mood or when they're feeling a bit distressed. They also use it when they're mating or courting with one another, they'll flick it upwards, almost like a scorpion's tail. So with lots of animals, they do use their tails to show mood. Elephants also will stick their tails directly outwards when they are all running around in agitation. But zebras is just used for for swishing flies. It may kind of change a little bit when they are mating. The female would pick hers up and move it a little bit out of the way so that the male can mate with her, but that's about it. They don't really, zebras are a little bit more, they use their ears a bit more for expressing their feelings. Okay, well, these guys are heading off over the hill, so I think we will probably leave them now. I think we might head off and try and find something a little bit different. The grass is so thick in this area, so we've actually been struggling to find general game, because when the grass is this thick, most people would think, okay, well, lots of animals will be able to come through here and be happy to eat all this grass, but it also is home to a lot of ticks. It makes traveling quite difficult, like if they were to try and run away from a lion or something, it'd be difficult to run through the grass, and also makes it quite easy for lions or leopards and cheetah to sneak up on them, because the grass gives good concealment for stalking. So that is why the general game actually doesn't like these very thick grassy areas. Yeah, so we are going to, I think, head off into a different area and try and see if we can find anything else.
On the 27th of April, WildEarth will be turning 14 years old, and we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for all of you. And to celebrate, we will be finishing the beautiful book that we started last year that looks at the history so far. But we do need you to be part of it. Please submit your most memorable sighting, or what WildEarth means to you, or even just your name and a comment to be included inside the book. Head over to the website to add your name and reserve your copy. And a big thank you to all of you who have contributed to the book so far.
The Mara Triangle is a jewel in the Kenyan conservation crown, and thanks to the dedication of the Mara Conservancy, it thrives as one of Earth's greatest national treasures.
We have been experiencing a reduction in the whale snails that we collect on a monthly basis, and this is basically attributed to our intense patrols.
Over the years, this courageous team of anti-poachers has reduced poaching to almost zero.
Mimi naitwa Stephen Olereso. Nimefanya kazi miaka 16 sasa. Kuanzia miaka 2002. Hao wanadamu ni wenye utua sana inaogofya ni wale wenye wanaenda kama ndovu. Wanatumia kama bunduki. Sasa hiyo ndio huwa inakuanga hatari sana kwa sisi.
As a result of the global pandemic and the massive reduction in tourist revenue, the Mara Triangle is facing a financial crisis. They need your help if they are to continue their ability to protect this magical land.
My name is Taylor McCurdy and I work for Eco Training. I love hearing from all of the viewers. However, I particularly enjoy those of you who have been watching for a few years. Your questions are just so advanced and they really get me thinking. If you'd like to ask a question on WildEarth, you need to register on our website. Once you've done that, head to the live safari page and submit your questions below the
Welcome everybody. As you can see right in front of us, we actually have different species of mammals right there, which is quite exciting because we've been coming to this waterhole for the last 2 days or 3 days and it's been so quiet. But this morning, all of a sudden this waterhole just became lively. As you can see, there's some impalas walking there and some zebras in the background. And I see some water bucks as well. I think some of the animals that are right at the back, They were maybe probably here earlier on for a drink and then moved off a little bit to go feed on the grass. As you can see, the impalas are already, some of them, moving off or out of this area. So this impala, so it looks like majority is mostly females and they're youngsters from last year. And it's quite normal finding these different species all together. One of the reasons is because they feed on the same type of food. And right there in the edge there, you can see some waterbucks there, just feeding along. And just because that grass is closer to the water hole, that grass there must be, or must have a lot of moisture. And they're enjoying that. And it's waterhole every now and then we do see some few crocodiles around here. So when those animals are here busy drinking, they also have to keep an eye out for any possibility of dangers. Whether it's from crocodiles or leopards maybe sneaking in from behind. I must say, this is one of my favorite water holes here. Kai, you're asking who's bigger between a male and a female. Kai, I wonder if you thinking impala or, you know, the zebra or the waterbuck. I'm wondering, but if it is impala that you're asking about, the males are going to be a little bit larger than the females. And same goes for the waterbucks. The males will be much larger. So for an impala, for male, you're looking at around oh, look at that. What is going on there? You see that one that is chasing the female? That is the male. Yo, look at that. Jeez, like. That is a proper chase. Quite interesting. And I mean, also you understand we're moving towards the rutting season. Earlier when I saw him just chasing that female, I was wondering maybe, you know, he wants to keep her within the harem. And normally they will do that, making sure that they all conform and they stay together in one area. Because most of these females will be his. Look at that. That is very interesting. So before I answer your question, Gerald, I just wanted to get back to that one viewer. I was asking about weight. So with the male Impala, there will be around 45 to 80 kgs, and females 34 to 52 kgs. So do they delay? I'm glad that you can join us, Gerald. So what I've seen throughout my time being out in the bush, they actually do not delay the rutting season. And almost at this time of the year, maybe the following month, you're gonna see them busy trying to keep these females together and fighting off other males. So not really, they don't really delay their rutting season. And I think that male did manage to keep that female in line. Quite incredible. So I'm just gonna sit here for a little while and just watch and enjoy this. But in the meantime, I'll send it to Steve. I think he has the same Impalas. Well, welcome to Chitwa, everybody. Or indeed, we have got a group of male Impala that are doing what they do. No fighting, but they're definitely keeping their distance. There's a lady, and there's a few ladies out here in the open areas of Chitwa. Perfect habitat for them. Under the Maruda trees, some nice shade. All different ages. Seems as if the eminent rat that's already sort of taking place on Juma is not really taking place here on Chitwa, which is just across the road. And the boys are starting to segregate themselves. There's no real animosity being shown between them. Next few weeks we're going to be spending a lot of time with Impala, a lot of time watching their behavior. That Impala sitting down on the right, the young male, is a year and a bit old, 1.5 old. The Impalas to the left of him, the two smallest ones, were born in November. So those age classes are there. The females behind are adults. It's hard to say exactly how old. And the male on the far left is about 2, maybe 3 years. So these mixed herds are evident that it isn't really taking place here yet on Chitwa, because otherwise a male like that youngster there would have been pushed out, and the male on the far right that was sit down a little bit further right, he would also, that one, he'd be pushed out as well. Quite mixed herds now. Those young boys soon will be pushed out to little bachelor herds of their own. But here, with these mixed herds, everything is quite peaceful. Apart from the squirrels shouting, it's seemingly nothing. Amanda, the rat is specifically the males that go through what we call a rut. And in some ways, the rutting is also the term for mating. So essentially, the males go through a rutting period, which is what we call it. But essentially, why they're going through that period is because the females come into estrus within the 2 full moons between the end of April
and the end of May. So however those exactly fall, majority of these females will come into estrus, and those pheromones that are being generated is what causes the males to go into a sort of crazy mask. What's this guy doing on the left here? He's doing a little bit of an interesting body shake. Sorry, Morgan. He was having a very interesting poo / body movement, which he's now decided to walk off. I think he might have been a bit blocked up there. And so the rut itself is actually stimulated by the fact that the females are coming into estrus, but the male's rut themselves stimulates the actual ovulation of the estrus. The estrus is a cycle that will happen, but the ovulation is induced by the noises, the roaring, gurgling, weirdness sound that the males make. And so together those are very, very important. You saw that one at the back there did that thing with his mouth a moment ago. He's starting to get that little gurgle going, and that roar stimulates the females. So although the estrus is going to happen between those full moons, the actual ovulation of the egg is stimulated by the weird song, if you would like to call it that, of the male impala. So it's called the rutting season. You get it in many other animals. I know the red deer for one. I don't know if, obviously the wildebeest come into a rut as well towards now, about the end of the growing season. It's not the same sort of story because the males are very well established already. So they don't actually go through any sort of crazy display. The male wildebeest will have their territories sort of secured already, and the females that come through, they'll just try and mate with as many as they can. Whereas these male impala building up condition, some of them have already started segmenting off small areas, on Juma anyway, and when the time is right, the mating will happen. So lots to come, lots of action to behold, and as we saw yesterday with the lions I was with, they tried to follow up on first a group of rutting impala, and then I lost them because they followed up again in rutting impala that were actually nearby Trish, and one of them actually ran into a car last night, and the poor thing did not survive. So male impala this time of year, definitely their numbers decrease because their vigilance is lowered. They're competing, they kill each other. There actually was an injury in that impala last night. There was a horn mark in its rib, so it had actually really been mortally wounded. So when these males fight, they try and stand their ground, but when one turns, the other one often presses home the advantage and chases, and those horns that you see there are incredibly sharp, everybody, and they can penetrate the body cavity of an impala very easily. And many male impala succumb to such injuries. They might not kill them immediately, but having a horn puncture to the stomach or the lung or an internal organ is a death blow. But it's what keeps up the confidence, it's what keeps up the strength, it's what keeps up the survival of the fittest. Only the strongest of these fellows will survive and breed. Okay, well, we are not far from Chitto watering hole. We just couldn't find any shade. We're going to stay here in the shade a bit longer while we send you to Trico, who's enjoying some water views.
Come back. So it looks like the male impala managed to get all the females in line in this one sort of area. And right over on the other side, there's some zebras there. You can see they're all sort of swaying their tails at the same time. Could be they're doing that because of, having insects around or biting insects. But then also tails can show the mood of the animals, like happiness and stress. But the way the tail is swaying, like side to side, and one of them have their heads down, maybe two of them busy feeding, and that is a sign of being relaxed and happy and loving life where they are. Quite difficult to tell from a distance, if there's a male in there. But I'm thinking that might be a harem, a male and his few females around. I believe Jacqueline is asking what species of zebra is this? It's a very good question, and thank you for joining us. So that is a plains zebra that you're looking at. We do have another species here called the mountain zebra, but you don't really find them in this area of Ngala. So with them, they're a little bit much smaller. And the stripes of a mountain zebra, they don't actually go all the way down to the belly. As you can see, these ones, the stripes go all the way down to the belly. So with mountain zebras, they actually end halfway. And these ones here, if you look at them and look closely, they resemble like your horses. But the mountain zebras, they look more like a donkey. So normally in a harem like that, some few females, the male could get even up to 4 or 5 females and their youngsters all together. I believe one viewer is asking, is zebras known to breed with other species of zebra? I've heard so. I'm not entirely sure about that, but I've heard that they actually can, but not entirely sure about that. Something that I'll go find out for you. And thanks for joining us. So in a harem like this, like that male, will mate with all the females that are in there. And when those females get pregnant, they normally drop the youngsters around the wet season. Because then there's plenty of water, and plenty of quality grass to feed on. And the female will be pregnant for about 365 days. So, a year. And will mostly give birth to one calf. Or foal, rather. Sorry. And see, they haven't actually moved much from that perch, eh? But I'm just gonna have a closer look. If maybe... Okay, right. That makes a bit of a sense. So there's a bit of an elevation just behind them. And if I'm not wrong, that looks like it might be probably an old termite mound where they are. And I think the reason they're not moving from there, so you have this fungus growing termites that we have here, which basically pick up all the dead plant material and they take it down to the termite mound and have this chamber where, you know, they'll feed the fungus, those dead plant material, and the fungus grow. So with all those dead plant material being brought down into the soil, that area tends to be more fertile. And some good quality grass grows in and around that mound there. So I think the reason why they're there, they haven't moved much in that area, is because that grass is highly, highly palatable. And we also think, why are they not moving into a shade and feeding in a place where there's a bit of shade? But zebras are one of the animals that, you know, they'll still feed even in hot times of the day, while other animals, you know, like your wildebeest, most likely all the time they'll be under some shade or resting. Because, I mean, they have that dark color and they absorb more heat. But with the zebras, with a bit of white on them, that white helps to reflect the heat. So they don't struggle a lot when it's very hot in comparison to your wildebeest. Good question, Ali. And thanks for joining us. I have actually, here on Ngala, I've never seen that, but I've seen a photo a while ago of this particular zebra that has been born without any stripes. It actually looks like it had spots rather than stripes. So it had a little bit of white and a little bit of black spots around them. Actually, if you look right in front of that zebra, there's a foal. The young one right in the middle. There it is, running towards the water. I think it's going to come out. There it goes. Very interesting. Sometimes when they walk like that, usually they'll keep the youngsters right in the middle. As you can see there's one right in the front, and then the youngster in the middle, and another one following from the back. And I guess with them, just putting them in the middle, just making sure that they keep those youngsters safe. And usually the male will walk right at the back to offer them protection. I think for now we're gonna leave these animals be, and I would like to send you to Josh. I think he's on a bumble.
A zebra without stripes. I know which photo Trico is talking about. I believe it came from East Africa in regards to that individual with spots. I think that is an incredible sighting. And you just realize that not everybody's meant to look the same. So you find myself and BK having a little bit of a bumble. We're heading out towards the dunes and looking to see if we use a bit of elevation, what we might find. We left our Meerkat family heading off foraging, and now we're kind of having a look around and scratching what's going on. Whoa, there we go. Very quick visual there of a peregrine falcon. We're going to try and get back and see if we can't. He just went for a pigeon past us, but he looks to be on a mission. I don't know if we're going to get him. Nah, he's gone. But very cool to know that they're in the area. I think we got a bit of a dive bomb there. Very cool. Always nice to see birds of prey out. As long as you're not the prey, obviously. It is starting to warm up quite nicely. Still a bit of a breeze, but all the signs for a pleasant morning. Oh, looks like BK's found us something in the distance. Just gonna zoom in there. Looks like we've got some giraffes. So earlier we were asked the question as to whether or not giraffes sometimes fed on the Springbok cucumbers, and I said I'd have to ask those who were A, smarter than me, and B, had been here a lot longer. And in this case, I reached out to our farm executive, who has been on the property for almost 20 years, and said, have you ever seen it, or have you ever had any reports of it? And he said to me, no, to both of the above. But he couldn't think of a reason as to potentially why they wouldn't do it. So there's someone with over 30 years experience in the industry, giving us a little bit more of a hands-on opinion, and someone who's been on Tswalu for an incredibly long time. So as much as we may not have seen it, it is definitely not something that is impossible, which I find quite interesting. So I'm going to spend between now and when the Springbok cucumbers vanish, hoping to see a giraffe eating one so I can answer this question. But it looks like our giraffe has decided to carry on with his morning, so I think we're going to bumble on and see what else we can find. So Patrick has one of the best questions I've had on WildEarth. Have I ever seen a giraffe accidentally find a leopard in a tree? I think that must be one of the best questions I've heard. Patrick, I cannot say I have, but I must admit that would be an amazing sighting and would be incredibly entertaining. We have found one of our lone wildebeest bulls, kind of wondering what we're up to. So now he's staring, but I must admit, Patrick, thank you for making my morning. I'm having a good chuckle at the thought of a giraffe having a little bit of a forage and this leopard kind of sitting there going, so what exactly is going on now? But this wildebeest is not interested in us either. He's decided to take a walk and see if he can't find somebody he actually wants to chill with. Off he goes into the thicket. Alright. Looks like it's a bit of a stop and go on this bumble, but always nice to see what is out and about and to get all of your questions. Let's see what else we can find.
So in 1998, we had this idea to go and put a live web camera on a waterhole somewhere in the Sabi sands next to the Kruger National Park. And I approached just about every single landowner and everybody thought I was completely crazy until I met Yuri and Pippa Moorman.
We thought it was definitely a fun idea and a worthwhile thing to experiment.
And it immediately became a runaway success. And it gave people all around the world the opportunity to watch a little piece of Africa day and night. Back in 1998, it was the very early stages of the internet. And all we were able to do was to get a 30-second refreshing JPEG out of that camera. But over time, what we began to do is focus more and more on trying to develop this concept of giving people the opportunity to go on safari.
Even though we live just 500 meters up this hill, we still put the camera on to see what's happening.
Absolutely, we watch it ourselves.
For all of you WildEarth explorers who bought plaques, today is the day that you will make your very first safari on our vehicle. Because we are quite remote here in the bush, they have taken some time to arrive, but I am happy to say they are here and they look great. Marcel has spent the day attaching them. Let's take a look.
Before we mount these nameplates, we just give a light dusting of green paint. This is to better match them to the color of the vehicles and also to decrease the reflectivity of the metal and thereby staying sensitive towards the animals.
Bumble crew, hopefully, Dan Black, Liesel Apgar and Alicia George. Well, it's time for me to get ready to take you all on a safari. Let's go.
My name is Taylor McCurdy and I work for Eco Training. I love hearing from all of the viewers. However, I particularly enjoy those of you who have been watching for a few years. Your questions are just so advanced and they really get me thinking. If you'd like to ask a question on WildEarth, you need to register on our website. Once you've done that, head to the live safari page and submit your questions below the live feed.
Stop and look at you. So, onwards and onwards again. Off to see what we can find. And, you guys seen something here? Don't know what that was, but it has moved on. Looks like we had a brief glimpse at a bird of prey again. We're just seeing what else we can find. It'd be nice if one of these lovely birds sat still so we could share it with you, but they are highly mobile at the moment. So just having a look around and seeing what's going on. Our friend, our giraffe is back. Our lovely friend is back. We've definitely spent quite a lot of time with giraffe this morning here at Tswalu. It has been a luck for us. Always a special species to spend time with. So we do hope you enjoy spending time. So we've just had a question from Lisa, and the question was, when threatened, do giraffes give an alarm call? Lisa, to my knowledge, I have never heard a single alarm call come from giraffe, and I've seen them chased by lion, I've seen them chased by hyena. But what you will find is their natural body language. If one suddenly starts running like mad, you're going to find that the rest are going to do the same thing. But as to a specific sound that they give, I have not. In fact, I have not heard giraffe vocalize at all. So it's been an amazing morning. I think everyone will agree. We've seen a lot. We've had everything from lion and elephant to learning about giraffes. And I'd say that across the different properties, we've all had an enjoyable morning. So I do hope you will join us again this afternoon at 3:30 on the Central African time for another live WildEarth safari, and come and enjoy an adventure with BK and myself and the others. I know Lauren and Steve, Tim and Kim would love to share a little bit more about their magic areas as well. We look forward to it, and we hope you have a good day. Enjoy.